My family used me as a free babysitter for 10 years, then called me selfish when I got a full scholarship in another state, accusing me of abandoning the family. So I moved anyway. They disowned me, but 5 years later, they were calling and begging for help. My name is Alex, and if someone had told me 10 years ago that I'd be living across the country from my family, completely cut off from them, I would have laughed. Not because it seemed impossible, but because back then, I couldn't imagine a life where I wasn't constantly needed, constantly available, constantly responsible for everyone else's children. I was the middle child in a family of 5 kids. There was Jessica, 3 years older and floating through life without a care in the world. Below me were the twins, Maverick and Maya, age 8, and baby brother Tyler, just 5. My parents worked demanding jobs. Mom as a nurse pulling 12-hour shifts, Dad as a supervisor with unpredictable hours. Looking back, I can see how it started. It wasn't malicious, just convenient. Jessica had her mall job, her boyfriend, her social life. I was quiet, responsible, and apparently had nothing better to do than babysit whenever needed. Alex, can you keep an eye on the kids while I run to the store? Became, Alex, I'll be back in a few hours, which eventually became, Alex, you're in charge until we get home. No discussion, no asking if I had plans, just assumption. The first time I realized how deep I was in this hole was during junior year. I was in the library working on a college application essay when my phone buzzed. Alex, honey, I need you to pick up the twins. Mrs. Henderson called in sick, so there's no after-school care today. I looked at my half-finished essay. But Mom, I'm working on college stuff. Can't Jessica? Jessica has work. You know that. The twins are waiting. I packed up and drove to elementary school. The twins climbed into the back seat of the beat-up Honda my parents let me use for family emergencies, which apparently included any time they needed chauffeur service. That became the pattern. School, then immediately pick up kids, help with homework, make snacks, break up fights, coordinate baths, read bedtime stories. By the time my parents got home around 8 or 9, I was exhausted. Thanks, sweetie, Mom would say, heading upstairs. You're such a lifesaver. Dad would ruffle my hair. Don't know what we'd do without you, kiddo. No payment, no acknowledgement that I just worked a 6-hour nanny shift, no recognition that I might have had plans or homework or a life of my own. Meanwhile, Jessica saved money from retail for college, went to parties, dated guys, lived the normal teenage experience I was apparently too responsible to deserve. When I mentioned this, Mom just sighed. Jessica's different, Alex. She's not as mature as you are. We know we can count on you. Translation. Jessica gets to be young and irresponsible, but you're the dependable one, so you get to be an adult at 17. When Jessica left for college, there was no discussion about redistributing responsibilities, just assumption I'd fill the gap. Senior year became a blur of missed opportunities. Couldn't join clubs, couldn't take SAT prep, couldn't go to homecoming because Tyler had flu and Mom was working doubles. There will be other dances, she said. Family comes first. I returned my dress clothes and bought groceries instead. My guidance counselor started pulling me aside. Your grades are good, but colleges want well-rounded applicants. I wanted to say I was well-rounded. I could change diapers, help with calculus, mediate fights, and cook for 5, all in one afternoon. But professional unpaid nanny probably wasn't what admissions committees wanted. One night, filling out applications for local schools, Tyler knocked on my door clutching his one-eyed stuffed elephant. Alex, I can't sleep. Can you read me a story? I looked at the application, then at his hopeful face. Sure, buddy. As I tucked him in and read Dr. Seuss for the 100th time, I realized something that made my chest tight. I loved these kids genuinely, deeply. But somewhere along the way, love had become obligation, and obligation had become a cage. The turning point came in February of my senior year. Jessica called home in tears. She'd failed 2 classes and been put on academic probation. She needed to come home to figure things out, which really meant move back into her old room and have Mom and Dad support her while she worked at the mall again. The day she returned, lugging suitcases and dorm decorations, I was making after-school snacks for the twins. She dumped her stuff in the living room and surveyed the house. God, this place is a mess, she said. What happened to keeping things clean? I gestured at Maverick building Legos and Maya doing homework surrounded by art supplies. Kids happened. Kids that someone has to watch. Jessica shrugged. Well, now that I'm back, maybe I can help out sometimes. Sometimes. The word hung in the air like a promise no one intended to keep. That weekend, Mom asked me to watch everyone while they took Jessica out to dinner to discuss her plans going forward. I spent Saturday evening doing homework help, mediating twin arguments and bedtime routines. They came home after 10, laughing about something Jessica had said. Oh, and Alex? Mom turned to me as she headed upstairs. Jessica needs the car tomorrow for job hunting. You'll have to figure out another way to get to school. I stared at her retreating figure. Jessica had been home 1 week, and already she was taking over the car I'd used for 2 years of kid shuttling. But apparently her job search trumped my transportation to school. That night, I couldn't sleep. I opened my laptop and Googled full scholarships out of state. Most deadlines had passed, but one caught my eye. The Morrison Foundation Scholarship for Students Demonstrating Exceptional Resilience. Deadline March 15th. It was February 28th. The essay prompt. Describe a challenge you've overcome and how it has prepared you for college success. I stared at the blank document, then started typing. For the past 3 years, I have been the primary caregiver for my 3 younger siblings, while maintaining a 3.8 GPA. I wrote for 3 hours about missed opportunities and late-night homework sessions, about cooking on budgets and calming nightmares, about love and resentment, and the complicated space between being needed and being taken for granted. The Morrison Foundation offered full tuition, room, and board at 12 participating universities. I applied to all 12, even ones across the country I'd never seriously considered. Then I waited. March and April passed in standardized babysitting routines. Jessica helped with kids exactly twice. College rejections piled up. The local state university accepted me with partial scholarships. Nothing that would let me really leave. Then, on a Thursday in late April, I got the call. I was stirring mac and cheese while helping Maya with math homework when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Hi, is this Alex Mitchell? This is Dr. Jennifer Wells from the Morrison Foundation. I'm calling with wonderful news. I nearly dropped the wooden spoon. Maya looked up, sensing something important. You've been selected as one of this year's Morrison Scholars. Congratulations, Alex. Your essay was extraordinary. The kitchen tilted around me. What? Full scholarship to your first choice school, Portland State University in Oregon. 4 years. Full tuition, room, board, and a stipend for books. Oregon. 3,000 miles away. A place where no one knew me as the guy who babysat his siblings. You deserve it. Your resilience and maturity shone through every line. After I hung up, Maya tugged my shirt. Alex, who was that? You look funny. I got into college. I got a full scholarship to college. That evening, when my parents came home, I told them about the scholarship. I expected excitement, congratulations, maybe pride. Instead, I got confusion. Oregon? Mom said, as if I'd announced I was moving to Mars. But why Oregon? There are perfectly good schools here. It's a full scholarship, Mom. Full ride. Dad frowned. But what about the kids? Jessica's still getting back on her feet. We can't handle everything without you. I stared at him. I'm 18 years old, Dad. I'm supposed to go to college. Of course, Mom said quickly. We're just saying maybe somewhere closer. Somewhere you could come home on weekends. Somewhere I could still be on call for babysitting duty. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Morrison Foundation only gives out 20 scholarships nationwide each year. Jessica, scrolling through her phone, looked up. I think it's kind of selfish, honestly. The word hit like a slap. Selfish? You know Mom and Dad need help with the kids. You know I'm trying to get my life together. This feels like you're abandoning everyone because you got some fancy scholarship. Something cracked inside my chest. Abandoning? I've spent 3 years raising kids that aren't mine. I've missed school dances and SAT prep and normal teenage experiences because I was here being responsible for everyone else's children. How is finally doing something for myself abandoning anyone? We never forced you, Mom said, voice getting that lecturing edge. You're part of this family, and family members help each other. Help each other? When was the last time anyone helped me? We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head, Dad said. Everything you did was for Jessica and Maverick and Maya and Tyler. I was just the unpaid help. The room fell silent except Tyler playing with toys, oblivious to the tension. Finally, Mom spoke, voice cold. If that's how you feel, Alex, maybe you should go to Oregon. But don't expect us to pretend we're happy about you abandoning your family. Fine, I said quietly. I'll go to Oregon, and since I'm abandoning everyone anyway, I guess you'll figure out childcare on your own. I walked upstairs and closed the door. For the first time in years, I didn't check if anyone needed help with homework or bedtime stories. The next few weeks were Arctic. Mom spoke to me in clipped, cold sentences only when absolutely necessary. Dad tried to play peacemaker once or twice, suggesting that maybe I could compromise by choosing a school closer to home. But when I didn't budge, He gave up and joined the silent treatment. Jessica seemed almost gleeful about the whole situation. With me in disgrace, she suddenly looked like the good daughter by comparison. She even volunteered to help with the kids a few times, making sure mom and dad saw her reading to Tyler or helping Maya with her spelling words. See? I heard her tell mom one evening. I told you I could help out more. Alex always acted like he was the only one who could do anything around here. The twins, Maverick and Maya, were confused by the tension, but smart enough to stay out of it. Tyler, at 5, just knew that everyone seemed angry and that Alex wasn't reading him bedtime stories anymore. I spent those weeks preparing for my escape. I researched everything I could about Portland State, about Oregon, about being a college student 3,000 miles from home. I applied for a campus job and looked into student organizations I might want to join. I started buying things I'd need for my dorm room with money I'd saved from my part-time job at the local grocery store. 2 weeks before graduation, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. Alex, this has gone on long enough. You're being ridiculous. I continued making my sandwich, not looking up. I'm being ridiculous? Yes. This whole Oregon thing is a tantrum. You're upset about some imagined slight, and you're punishing all of us for it. I set down the knife I'd been using to spread peanut butter and finally looked at her. Mom, in the past 3 years, how many school events of mine have you attended? She blinked. What does that have to do with anything? How many? I've been to plenty of your events. Name one. Silence. I made honor roll every semester for 3 years. I was in the National Honor Society. I gave a speech at the academic awards ceremony. I was selected for the peer tutoring program. You missed all of it because you were working or because someone needed to watch the kids. Alex, you know how demanding my job is. You went to every single one of Jessica's volleyball games. You went to her homecoming dance pictures. You threw her a party when she got accepted to college, even though her grades were terrible. Mom's face flushed. That's different. How? Jessica needed more support. She wasn't as naturally responsible as you. So I got punished for being responsible by being given more responsibility. And Jessica got rewarded for being irresponsible by having her responsibilities taken care of for her. It's not punishment, Alex. It's family. No, Mom. Family is when everyone contributes. Family is when parents take care of their children instead of making one child take care of the others. Family is when a teenager gets to be a teenager instead of being a built-in babysitter. I picked up my sandwich and headed toward the stairs. Where are you going? Mom called after me. To my room, to work on scholarship paperwork. You know, for the opportunity I'm being selfish about by accepting. Graduation day was awkward and tense. My parents came because not showing up would have looked bad to the other parents. But they sat stiffly through the ceremony and left immediately after, without suggesting we go out to celebrate. Jessica, who had been working at the mall that day, met us at home later. How was graduation? She asked, not looking up from her phone. Fine, I said. Cool. That was the extent of my family's acknowledgement of my high school graduation. 3 days later, Mom found me packing boxes in my room. You're really doing this, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes. We've decided that if you go to Oregon, you shouldn't expect to come back here for holidays or summers. If you want to abandon your family, then you're on your own. I looked up from the box of books I was packing. Are you disowning me? We're not disowning you. We're just making it clear that if you choose to leave, you can't expect us to welcome you back when it's convenient for you. So you're disowning me. Mom's mouth tightened. Think of it however you want, Alex. But don't come crying to us when you realize how hard it is to make it on your own. The morning I left for Portland, only Tyler came downstairs to say goodbye. He was still in his pajamas, clutching his stuffed elephant. Are you coming back? He asked, his 5-year-old face serious. I knelt down to his level. I don't know, buddy, but I'll miss you. He hugged me tight, and for a moment I almost changed my mind. Almost. But then I remembered that Tyler's hugs, as much as I loved them, weren't worth sacrificing my entire future. Take care of yourself, okay? Be good for Mom and Dad. He nodded solemnly, like I'd given him an important mission. I loaded my car with everything I owned that mattered and drove away from the house where I'd spent 18 years being everyone's caretaker. In the rearview mirror, I could see Tyler standing in the doorway in his dinosaur pajamas, waving. Portland was everything I'd hoped and more. My dorm room was small, but mine. My roommate, Jake, was from California and had never heard of my family or my reputation as the responsible one. To him, I was just Alex, freshman psychology major with an interest in child development. The irony wasn't lost on me. For the first time in years, I had a schedule that was entirely my own. Classes, study time, meals when I wanted to eat them, sleep when I was actually tired instead of when the last child had been tucked into bed. I joined the psychology club and started volunteering at a local elementary school as a tutor. I made friends who knew me as the guy who was funny and smart and surprisingly good at beer pong, not as the guy who always had to leave early to babysit. I called home twice during my first semester. Both times, whoever answered was polite but distant. Yes, everyone was fine. Yes, they'd figured out arrangements for the kids. No, there wasn't really any news to share. I stopped calling. The Morrison Foundation Scholarship included a mentorship program, and I was paired with Dr. Patricia Harrison, a psychology professor who specialized in family dynamics and child development. During our monthly coffee meetings, she helped me process not just my academic goals, but also the complicated feelings I had about my family. It's normal to feel guilty, she told me during one of our sessions. You were parentified as a child, forced to take on adult responsibilities before you were ready. When parentified children finally set boundaries, they often struggle with feelings of guilt and abandonment, even though they're the ones who were originally abandoned by their parents. But I did abandon them, I said. The kids needed help, and I left. The kids needed their parents to figure out appropriate childcare, not to continue relying on their older son to sacrifice his future. You modeled something important for them, that it's okay to prioritize your own well-being, and that adults should be responsible for their own choices. It took 2 years of therapy and countless conversations with Dr. Harrison before I really understood that leaving hadn't been selfish. It had been survival. By my junior year, I was thriving. I had a 3.9 GPA, a part-time job as a research assistant, and a girlfriend named Emma who thought my stories about growing up were heartbreaking, not normal. I was applying for graduate school programs in child psychology, inspired by my own experiences, but finally able to see them from a professional rather than personal perspective. I had built a life in Portland. I had friends, professors who knew my name and my potential, internship opportunities, a sense of myself as an individual rather than just an extension of my family's needs. For the first time in my life, I was happy. And then, on a Tuesday evening in October of my junior year, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me pick up. Hello? Alex? It's Jessica. I sat down on my dorm room bed. I hadn't talked to my sister in over 2 years. Hi, I said carefully. Hi. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? There was a pause. I'm pregnant. I waited for her to continue. And I'm not with the father anymore. And I'm living at home with mom and dad. And her voice broke. Alex, I don't know how you did it. I can't handle the twins and Tyler and everything. And now I'm going to have a baby. And I don't know what to do. The irony was breathtaking. Jessica, who had called me selfish for leaving, was now discovering exactly how much work I'd been doing all those years. Have you talked to mom and dad about getting help? I asked. They're working even more hours now. Dad got laid off last year and had to take a job at a different plant with worse pay, so mom picked up extra shifts. They're barely home, and when they are, they're exhausted. What about professional childcare? Jessica laughed, but it sounded more like crying. With what money? Do you know how much daycare costs for 3 kids? Even if we could find someone to take Tyler after school and watch the twins all summer, we can't afford it. I felt an old, familiar tug of guilt and responsibility. These were still my siblings she was talking about. Tyler was 7 now, the twins were 10. They were kids, and they needed someone to take care of them. But then I thought about Dr. Harrison, about all our conversations about boundaries and enabling and the difference between helping and fixing. I thought about my life in Portland, about graduate school applications sitting on my desk, about the research project I was working on that could lead to publication. Jessica, I'm sorry you're struggling, but I can't come back. I'm not asking you to come back permanently, she said quickly. Just for a while. Just until I figure things out. Just until the baby comes and I can get back on my feet. And then what? You'll be a single mother with 4 kids to take care of instead of 3. How is that going to be easier? Alex, please, I'm desperate. I was wrong before. I know I was wrong. You weren't selfish. I get it now. I'm sorry. The apology I'd wanted to hear for years. But it was coming at the worst possible time, for the wrong reasons. Jessica, me coming back won't solve the problem. It will just enable everyone to avoid solving it themselves. Mom and dad need to figure out sustainable childcare arrangements. You need to figure out your situation with the baby. The twins and Tyler need stability that doesn't depend on whether or not I'm available to provide it. So you're just going to let your family fall apart? There it was. The manipulation I'd been expecting. My family's problems were my responsibility, even from 3,000 miles away. My family fell apart years ago. I said quietly. When parents decided that one child's future was less important than their convenience. When you called me selfish for accepting an opportunity that could change my entire life. When I was disowned for refusing to sacrifice my education to be your permanent babysitter. Jessica was crying now. Alex, please, I know we messed up, but we need you. You need help. You don't need me specifically. There are resources, Jessica. Look into state programs for single mothers. Look into sliding scale childcare. Look into family support services. But don't call me asking to resume a role that nearly destroyed me. I don't know how to do any of that. Then learn. The same way I learned how to take care of 3 kids when I was barely older than Maverick and Maya are now. The same way I learned to fill out college applications while working essentially full-time as a nanny. The same way I learned to build a life for myself without any support from the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. After I hung up, I sat in my dorm room for a long time. My roommate was at his girlfriend's place, so I had the space to myself to process what had just happened. Part of me wanted to buy a plane ticket home, the part that had been trained from childhood to fix everyone else's problems, to sacrifice my own needs for the greater good of the family. But a larger part of me, the part that had grown stronger over the past 3 years, knew that going back would solve nothing and cost me everything. I called Dr. Harrison instead. Alex, she said, her voice warm with concern when I told her about Jessica's call. How are you feeling? Guilty and angry and relieved, I think. Relieved? That I'm not there. That it's not my problem to solve this time. That's growth, she said. Recognizing that you can care about people without being responsible for their problems. Over the next few months, the calls continued. First from Jessica, then from Mom, then from Dad. Always the same theme. Things were hard, they needed help. Couldn't I just come back for a little while? The guilt was crushing sometimes. I'd lie awake at night wondering if Tyler was doing okay in school, if the twins were getting help with homework, if Jessica was taking care of herself during her pregnancy. But I held firm to my boundaries. In December, Jessica had the baby, a little girl named Emma. Mom sent me a single text with a photo. She's beautiful. We're all doing fine. I looked at the picture of my niece, a tiny, red-faced infant with dark hair, and felt a complex mix of emotions. Love, because she was family, and she was innocent in all of this. Sadness, because I was missing her first moments. Relief, because her existence wasn't my responsibility. I sent back a simple response. Congratulations, she's lovely. That was the last direct communication I had with my family for almost 2 years. I graduated summa cum laude with my bachelor's degree in psychology. I was accepted to graduate school at the University of Washington for a PhD program in developmental psychology with a focus on family systems and child welfare. I moved to Seattle, found a small apartment, and threw myself into my research. My dissertation was on the long-term effects of parentification on childhood development. I interviewed dozens of young adults who had been forced to take on parental responsibilities as children, documenting the impact on their academic achievement, mental health, and relationship patterns. It was personal work disguised as academic research, and it was the most meaningful thing I'd ever done. Through my research, I connected with other people who had similar experiences. I wasn't alone. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I was part of a pattern that was more common than most people realized, and I was helping to document it and find ways to heal from it. 5 years after leaving for Portland, 6 months after defending my dissertation, I was working as a postdoctoral researcher at Seattle Children's Hospital when my phone rang on a Wednesday afternoon. Another unknown number, but this time from my home area code. I answered without thinking. Alex? Oh, thank God. It's Dad. I hadn't heard my father's voice in years. He sounded older, tired. Hi, Dad. Alex, we need to talk. Are you free? I was in the middle of analyzing data from a study on trauma-informed childcare practices, but something in his voice made me pause. I can talk for a few minutes. What's going on? It's your mother. She had a stroke last month. She's not doing well, Alex. She's in a rehabilitation facility, but the costs, and someone needs to coordinate her care, and Jessica's overwhelmed with the baby, and Tyler's having problems at school, and he was rambling, the words tumbling out like he'd been holding them back for weeks. Dad, slow down. How bad was the stroke? She lost some mobility on her left side. Her speech is affected. She's going to need ongoing therapy and probably long-term care assistance. I'm sorry. That must be really difficult. There was a pause. Alex, I know we haven't talked in a long time. I know things ended badly between us, but we need help. Jessica can't manage everything, and I'm working 2 jobs just to keep up with the medical bills. The twins are in middle school now and Tyler's struggling and… What are you asking me, Dad? Could you come home? Just for a while. Just to help us figure out what to do. The old familiar request. The old familiar assumption that my life was pausable, that my priorities were secondary, that my value to the family was as a fixer of problems I hadn't created. But this time was different. This time I had 5 years of distance, a PhD, a career, and most importantly, a clear sense of who I was beyond my family role. Dad, I'm sorry about Mom. I really am. And I'm sorry you're all struggling. But I can't come back. Alex, please. I know we made mistakes. You disowned me. Mom told me I was selfish for accepting a full scholarship to college. None of you spoke to me for 5 years. You don't get to call me now and ask me to fix problems that were building long before Mom's stroke. That's not… We didn't disown you. We were hurt that you left. You were hurt that I stopped being your free childcare. Silence. Dad, I love you. I love Mom. I love all my siblings. But loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your life for them, especially when they've made it clear that your life doesn't matter to them. Your life does matter to us. Then why didn't it matter 5 years ago? Why didn't anyone care that I was missing out on normal teenage experiences to be a full-time babysitter? Why didn't anyone care that I was passing up local colleges to get an opportunity that could change my entire future? Why didn't anyone support me when I finally tried to build something for myself? We were scared. We didn't know how we'd manage without you. It was the first honest thing anyone in my family had said to me in years. Dad, that was your problem to solve, not mine. I was a kid. Kids shouldn't have to manage their parents' inability to handle their responsibilities. We know that now. Jessica told us. She told us how hard it was. She couldn't do it, even for a few months. She said she doesn't know how you managed for years. I felt a flicker of validation, followed immediately by sadness. It had taken my family 5 years and a crisis to recognize what I'd been trying to tell them all along. I'm glad Jessica understands now. But Dad, I can't fix this. I have a life here. I have a career, research commitments, responsibilities of my own. I can't just drop everything and come back to being the family problem solver. What are we supposed to do? What millions of families do when they face medical crises? You research resources. You contact social services. You look into respite care and home health aides. You figure out sustainable solutions that don't depend on one person sacrificing their life. We don't know how to do that. Then you learn. The same way I learned to take care of kids when I was 17. The same way I learned to navigate college applications and scholarships and building a career without any support from my family. After I hung up, I sat in my office at the hospital for a long time. Through the window, I could see parents bringing their children for appointments, worried faces and hopeful faces and tired faces, all of them trying to do their best for their kids within whatever circumstances they were facing. I thought about my research, about all the families I'd studied who had found ways to heal from patterns of dysfunction and create healthier dynamics. It was possible, but it required everyone involved to be willing to change, to give up old roles and learn new ways of relating. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Dad said you won't come home. I understand why, but could we at least talk? I stared at the message for a while, then typed back, I'm willing to talk, but not about me coming home. If you want to discuss resources for Mom's care or childcare options, I can help research those things. Her response came quickly. That would help. I'm drowning, Alex. I never realized how much you did. Over the next few weeks, Jessica and I had several long phone conversations. Not about me returning, but about practical solutions to the family's problems. I helped her research state programs for families dealing with medical crises. I found information about sliding scale childcare, after-school programs, and respite care services. I even connected them with social workers who specialized in helping families navigate complex care situations. Slowly, my family began to figure out a sustainable system. Mom moved from the rehabilitation facility to a smaller care facility closer to home. Dad reduced his hours at one of his jobs to help coordinate her care and spend time with the younger kids. Jessica found a part-time job with flexible hours and enrolled Emma in a daycare that offered sliding scale fees. It wasn't easy for them, and it wasn't perfect, but it was working. And most importantly, it wasn't dependent on me sacrificing my life. 6 months after Dad's call, Mom was able to come home with the assistance of a part-time aide. Her speech had improved significantly, and while she still had mobility challenges, she was stable. Tyler was doing better in school with the help of a tutor and more consistent support at home. The twins had adjusted to their new routines. Jessica called me on a Saturday evening in spring. How's everyone doing? I asked. Better, she said. Really better. Mom's getting stronger every week. Tyler made honor roll this semester. Maverick and Maya are both playing soccer now. That's wonderful. Alex, I owe you an apology. A real one. I waited. When you left for college, I was jealous. I was jealous that you got this amazing opportunity, and I was stuck at home dealing with my failures. And I was terrified because I knew that once you were gone, I'd have to step up and I didn't think I could do it. Jessica. No, let me finish. I called you selfish because it was easier than admitting that I was the selfish one. I had been letting you carry all the responsibility while I got to be the irresponsible older sister. When you left, I realized how much work you'd been doing, how much you'd been sacrificing. She paused, and I heard her take a shaky breath. I tried to take over for a few months when I got pregnant, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't handle what you'd been handling since you were 15 years old. And instead of recognizing that you were amazing, I was resentful that you weren't there to keep doing it. Thank you for saying that, I said softly. I'm proud of you. I know I should have said that years ago, but I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself and for building something incredible with your life. And I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. We talked for another hour, really talked, for the first time in our adult lives. She told me about her struggles with single motherhood, her fears about being a good parent, her appreciation for all the things I'd taught her during our childhood that she'd never acknowledged before. I told her about my research, my career goals, my life in Seattle. As we were wrapping up the call, she said, "Would it be okay if I visited sometime? I'd love to see your life there, and I'd love for Emma to know her uncle." "I'd like that," I said, and meant it. A few weeks later, I got a card in the mail. It was from Tyler, now 12 years old, written in careful cursive handwriting that reminded me of helping him with his letters when he was 5. Dear Alex, Dad told me you helped find the programs that let Mom come home. Thank you for helping, even though we were mean to you. I miss you, and I hope I can see you soon. I still have the elephant you fixed. Love, Tyler. Love for the little boy who had hugged me goodbye in his dinosaur pajamas. Grief for all the years we'd lost. Relief that we might be able to build something new. I have relationships with my family members now, but they're relationships based on choice and mutual respect, rather than obligation and guilt. Jessica visits me once a year with Emma, who is a bright, energetic 5-year-old who calls me Uncle Alex and loves the Science Museum. Tyler and I text regularly, and I've been able to help him with college applications and scholarship essays. The twins are teenagers now, busy with sports and school activities, but they send me updates about their lives. Mom and I have video calls every few weeks. Her speech has almost completely returned, and while we've never had a deep conversation about the past, she tells me she's proud of what I've accomplished. Dad and I exchange emails about family updates and my work. It's not the close-knit family relationship that some people have, but it's honest. It's built on recognition of who we all really are, rather than who we were forced to be by circumstance and dysfunction.